Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, in the Caribbean, Hurricane Maria has claimed its first casualty on the island of Guadeloupe. The Prime Minister of Dominica said, "We have lost everything that money can buy." After the storm hit there, and other islands are now bracing themselves for the worst. Maria hit Dominica last night and is moving roughly northwest at around 9 miles an hour. In its path, at this stage, Montserrat. It skirts south of St. Kitts and Nevis, then heads for the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico, which it forecast to hit tomorrow. Our Foreign Affairs correspondent, Jonathan Rugman, has this report.
Last night, the second major storm in the Caribbean this month battered Guadeloupe. Hurricane Maria flooding houses, submerging roads, and a French island which has been a staging post for ferrying aid to other parts of the Caribbean, previously hit by Hurricane Irma, is now in need of help itself. By the time Maria reached Dominica, Force 5 hurricane causing widespread devastation.
That dog gonna burst Miguel.
One eyewitness filmed winds up to 160 miles an hour ripping off corrugated roofs next door.
The church roof on 7 days church go in. My neighbor roof go on. Boy, watch that, watch that, watch that, watch that, watch that, watch that, watch that.
And in a sign of just how unprepared Dominica was, the Prime Minister lost his roof too and had to be rescued. The winds are merciless. We shall survive by the grace of God, Roosevelt Skerritt wrote on his Facebook page. Then, my roof is gone. I'm at the complete mercy of the hurricane. House is flooding, before he was evacuated to safety. With communications down, nothing has been heard from the island since, though British officials say they are on standby to help.
We have got already partners in Dominica who can provide assistance there. The Caribbean Regional Agency for Disaster Management has pre-stocked supplies, and we'll be looking to see how we can best reinforce those from today.
This hurricane's eye has shrunk to just 10 miles across, what forecasters call a pinhole eye, its small size indicating that the hurricane is spinning even faster. On Tortola, the largest of the British Virgin Islands, the fear is that thousands of fallen trees and other debris from Hurricane Irma could become lethal missiles when the storm moves in tonight. Reconstruction has ground to a halt here, and with nothing to hold the soil together, there's a risk of mudslides. Dominica's Prime Minister has called the damage mind-boggling on this island of over 70,000 people. The priority now, though, to provide medical care to those injured. This hurricane season is so disastrous that perhaps it will force a complete rethink amongst island governments and their partners over what contingency planning really means.
Jonathan Rugman reporting. We're joined now from New York by Baroness Scotland, who was born in Dominica and is the Secretary-General of the Commonwealth. Baroness Scotland, of course, Dominica has a very different status to poor Anguilla. It is an independent state. Is Britain, as the former colonial power, now obliged? Does it have any legal responsibility to respond to all this?
The United Kingdom is part of our Commonwealth of 52 countries, and as a family, all of us are heartbroken when any of our members are affected, and the United Kingdom has already made it clear that they are going to reach out, are supportive, and you'll remember that when Erica struck Dominica in 2015, the United Kingdom was there to support her family members. So we are asking all our international friends to come together to respond to what is a Caribbean-wide onslaught by the climate which we are seeing now. It is heartbreaking. Those who didn't understand what existential threat meant, regrettably we're seeing it all too clearly. in Irma and now, tragically, in Maria too.
What we seem to be seeing is a succession of states with different kinds of statuses, from dependencies to colonial operations to independence, and no real united system for responding to a crisis like this, because not one of the afflicted islands really has the power to rebuild itself on its own.
Well, I think that's why the Commonwealth is so important. In the region, in the Caribbean, you have SEDIMA, which is the Disaster Emergency Management. But what we have traditionally done is to respond to one incident. What we have now is a multiplicity of incidents happening all over, not just this region but elsewhere. You have to remember we've had mudslides in Sierra Leone, we've had floods in Bangladesh, in India and in Pakistan, and this now is an onslaught on the Caribbean. So it is overseas territories, independent countries, all of us being hit together, and that's why I think we need one plan in terms of how do we respond together, how do we articulate a way forward, and I'm pulling together in the Commonwealth people from right across the place to say how can we put forward a task force which will look at exactly how we coordinate, how we make a difference, and how we take this seriously and know that all of us need to make this difference, because if not now, when are we going to understand that this is a huge problem for all of us? And if not us, then who?
Well,
so I think this is a real moment for all of us to say how we put together.
Well, you speak in the context of the one power that could do something, the United Kingdom, still has its HMS Ocean on its way 3 hurricanes after it set sail.
But I think the thing is, we are in different places in the world. Our contingency now has to be how can we respond faster. HMS Oceans has been making its way from the moment that Irma came upon us. But we need to know what are the resources that we have in the region. How can we bring together non-governmental agencies, people who are willing to do pro bono work, agencies who are able to add value, and it can't just be in one region. It has to be all of us together thinking now that this is one world, and we have to look at a regenerative model so that we build resilience, so we look at the debt, and so we make sure that we limit the cost of this to the people who are suffering so badly at the moment.
Baroness Scotland, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
First Harvey, then Irma and Jose. Now it's Maria's turn. This year's hurricanes are moving ferociously down the alphabet, and we're only halfway through the hurricane season, the worst since 2005. So is this cyclical, or does climate change play a role in the severity of the storms? I'm joined in the studio now by our science editor, Tom Clark. So what is it?
Well, the great weather experiment that is global warming is already well underway. It's a degree warmer than it was about a century ago. That list of weather crises that you just heard Baroness Scotland listing there, they are all connected in some way. What we don't know is just about where, when and how often they're going to come with the climate change scenarios. But those extreme weather events are inevitable. Take Maria, a monster storm, just weeks on the heels of Irma, just as big, yet they're not the biggest storms on record. This hurricane season, though it has been unusually active, is not the worst we've ever seen, although, as you say, there are a couple of months left to run in the season. But look at the ingredients. If you take a look at this image, this is the Atlantic sea surface temperatures showing that in the run-up to Hurricane Irma, clearly far, far higher than average you'd expect for the time of year. Warmer oceans mean essentially more energy for heavy weather. They also mean less dense oceans, higher sea levels. On top of that, higher sea levels from melting ice caps at both ends of the poles. You get the general picture.
And briefly, did we not learn today that we've actually got a little bit of time to avoid the worst?
Yes, a new report published today, by no means a sigh of relief, we don't have to worry about anything, but what it found is if we do absolutely everything to reduce carbon, greenhouse gas emissions for our economies, we might just miss the worst of the warming world that we're currently headed towards. We saw some reason for hope recently. Just this week, we reported on how renewable energy, like offshore wind farms, have reduced massively in cost. That will help us get there. But it's important to remember we're already locked into about a half a degree of warming as it is.
All right. Tom, thanks very much.